Gemini better than ChatGPT? Okay, wait, Google genuinely does not care about that. Zero. They're asking, how do we make sure in 3 years, every serious AI business runs on our pipes and can't afford to leave? Like, that's the real plot twist. Google Cloud just reported $9.56 billion in revenue for Q1 2024, up 28% year-over-year, and they specifically called out AI services as the primary driver. But here's what that number actually means. It's not proof Gemini's winning the model wars. It's proof Google's Landlord strategy is working. And most companies building on AI right now are walking straight into it without realizing. I'm not even kidding. It's like signing a lease with the devil, but the rent's free for month 1. So here's what we're actually talking about today. Not which model is smarter, but how Google is quietly becoming the infrastructure every AI-powered business depends on. And why by the time most companies notice, the exit door will cost more than staying. Hold on, this gets wild. Vertex AI, you've probably heard of it. Here's what it actually is. A platform that hosts over 130 models. Gemini, yes, but also Llama 3, Mistral, Claude via API partnerships. Basically every serious model in the industry, all available through Google's infrastructure. Okay, so think about that for a second. Google isn't just saying use our model. They're saying use any model. Just use our platform to run it. That's not a product strategy. That's a landlord strategy. Samsung and OnePlus are competing on phone hardware, but they're both running Google's Android. Google doesn't care who wins the hardware war. They own the ground everyone's standing on. Same thing here. OpenAI and Anthropic can fight over benchmark scores. Google's collecting rent from everyone. Who approved this? Was anyone sober? But how does the trap actually close? Because platform strategy sounds abstract until you see the numbers. Here's how it works in practice. You're a company. You deploy a model on Vertex AI. You fine-tune it on your proprietary data. You integrate Gemini for Workspace. That's $30 per user per month, embedded directly into Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Meet. Your team starts using it daily. Your sales team builds prompts into their workflow. Your engineers wire it into internal tools. Your data is sitting in Google Cloud storage. Now, 6 months later, a competitor offers you a better deal. You want to switch? Cool. Google charges egress fees to move your data out. 12 cents per gigabyte, minimum for transfers to North America. If you've got 100 terabytes of training data and model artifacts, which is not a lot for a serious company, that's $12,000 just to physically move the data. Before you reconfigure a single pipeline, before you retrain anything, before you rebuild your Workspace integrations from scratch. Data has gravity. The more you pour into Google Cloud, the stronger the pull. And at some point, the escape velocity required to leave becomes more expensive than whatever problem you were trying to solve by leaving. My GPU just cried reading the fine print. This is not a bug. This is the business model. But the egress fees are actually the visible cost. The invisible cost is worse. Gemini for Workspace isn't a separate app your team opens. It's woven into the tools they already live in. Your team doesn't think I'm using Google AI right now. They think I'm writing an email. The AI is just there, helping seamlessly. And that seamlessness is exactly the trap. A 2023 survey found that 46% of companies experience budget overruns during cloud migrations, 25% overshot by 50% or more. And those migrations didn't involve extracting AI from the muscle memory of every person in the organization. Imagine telling your team, we're switching AI providers because it's 20% cheaper, and then watching their faces as you explain it'll take 6 months, break every automation they've built, and require retraining on a completely different interface. Most companies won't even start that conversation, and Google knows it. It's like trying to quit Netflix mid-season. Good luck. Okay, before you think I'm just here to roast Google, AWS Bedrock and Azure AI Studio are running the exact same playbook. Identical. Multi-model platforms, deep cloud integration, egress fees, productivity suite AI, baked into Office 365. The lock-in strategy isn't unique to Google. It's standard operating procedure for any cloud infrastructure company at scale. So why focus on Google specifically? Because Google also controls search, Android, which runs on 70% of mobile devices globally, YouTube, and now Workspace, which is embedded in millions of organizations worldwide. Their gravity well isn't just deeper, it's multidimensional. AWS locks in your compute, Google locks in your compute, your search visibility, your mobile presence, and your daily work tools simultaneously. That's a different category of leverage, like Thanos, but with data centers. But here's the part that genuinely surprised me when I was researching this. I spent 3 hours reading the docs like a masochist. Hugging Face hosts over 1 million public models right now. Llama 3, Mistral, and others are genuinely competitive with proprietary models on a lot of benchmarks. So the obvious escape route seems clear. Just deploy open source models and avoid the lock-in entirely. Smart, right? Except, where do most companies deploy those open source models? Vertex AI, Google Cloud, because Google offers the infrastructure, the MLOps tooling, the fine-tuning pipelines, and the Workspace integrations all in one place. The convenience is real. So open source becomes a Trojan horse. Companies think they're escaping lock-in by choosing an open model. They're actually deepening lock-in by choosing Google's platform to run it. Google doesn't care which model you use. They care that you use their infrastructure to run it. The freedom of open source deployed on proprietary infrastructure is kind of like bringing your own food to a restaurant, but still paying for the table, the kitchen, the staff, and the building. You pick the ingredients. They own everything else. Bring your own rum into Five Guys, still $20 for the soda. Here's the thing though, this isn't new for Google. They have a very specific, very proven playbook for this. Android. Google didn't win mobile by building the best phone. They built the platform every phone manufacturer needed. Samsung, OnePlus, Motorola, all competing against each other, all running Google's OS. Google collects data and ad revenue from every device, regardless of who wins the hardware competition. YouTube. Google didn't need the best video player. They needed to be the place where all the content lived. Once creators built audiences there, leaving meant abandoning everything they built. Sound familiar? Search. Businesses didn't choose Google because Bing couldn't index the web. They chose Google because being visible on Google wasn't optional. The platform became non-negotiable. Now watch the pattern repeat. Vertex AI is the operating system for AI-powered businesses. Gemini, Llama, Claude, all competing models, all running on Google's platform. Companies competing on AI capabilities, all paying rent to the same landlord. Google has run this play 3 times at massive scale. They know exactly what they're doing. 4th time's the charm? Nah, this is monopoly level. So here's where it gets uncomfortable. Gemini for Workspace is $30 per user per month today. Reasonable. Competitive even. But think about what that price looks like in 2 years, after your entire organization's workflows are built around it. After your data is deeply integrated into Google Cloud. After your models are fine-tuned on Vertex AI, and your team has built 2 years of institutional knowledge around these specific tools. At that point, switching costs are real. They're documented. A 10% price increase, say $33 per user, costs a 500-person company $18,000 a year more. But migrating off the platform might cost $500,000 and 6 months of disruption. The math is obvious. You pay the increase, and the next one, and the one after that. Fast, efficient, and your wallet's gone. Google doesn't need to be aggressive today. They need to be inevitable today, so they can be profitable tomorrow. This is the land grab phase. Lock in volume at reasonable prices. Then, once switching costs exceed price sensitivity, optimize margin. Every major platform company in history has done this. Google is just doing it with AI infrastructure, which is orders of magnitude more embedded in daily operations than any previous platform. I'm not even speculating here. This is the standard SaaS pricing lifecycle, applied to infrastructure that your entire business runs on. That's the part that's different. Slightly terrifying. But zoom out from individual companies for a second, because the industry-level implications are actually more serious. If Google controls the infrastructure for 60 to 70% of enterprise AI deployments, they don't just control pricing for those companies. They influence innovation velocity for the entire industry. A startup with a genuinely better model can't compete if they can't match Google's infrastructure integration. A competitor cloud provider can't gain traction if most serious companies are already locked in. Smaller AI providers either get acquired or they die. The ecosystem consolidates. Not because Google is being malicious, because platform lock-in is more profitable than pure innovation, and rational companies choose the path of least resistance. The long-term cost is a less diverse, less competitive AI landscape. The near-term cost is that your company slowly loses the ability to make independent strategic decisions about its own AI infrastructure. And honestly, most companies won't notice until the moment they try to leave and discover the door weighs 10 tons. That's wild. Okay, so if you're building on AI infrastructure right now, here's the framework that actually matters. 1. Before you deploy anything on Vertex AI or any major cloud AI platform, calculate your switching cost explicitly. Data volume times egress fees. Integration points times retraining time. Organizational retraining times productivity loss. Make it visible to your leadership team. Most companies don't know their switching cost until it's already too late to change course. Knowing it before deployment changes your architecture decisions. 2. Build portability into your architecture from day one. Use Docker and Kubernetes for model deployment instead of platform-specific tools. Build your RAG pipelines on abstraction layers that work across cloud providers. Use standard APIs wherever possible instead of proprietary integrations. This adds maybe 10 to 15% overhead to your initial development timeline. But in 2 years, when you're evaluating whether to stay or switch, you'll have real options instead of a hostage negotiation. 3. And this is the simplest one. In every product meeting, every architecture review, every vendor discussion, ask one question. If we needed to migrate this in 6 months, could we? If the answer is no or I'm not sure, that's a red flag worth addressing now. It doesn't mean don't use Google Cloud. It means use it consciously, with a migration plan that actually exists somewhere. The companies that ask this question early avoid the nightmare scenario. The ones that don't ask it become the cautionary tale. Here's the honest reframe though. Google's strategy isn't evil. It's elegant. They're not forcing anyone into lock-in. They're making lock-in the path of least resistance. They're not blocking exits. They're making exits so expensive that staying feels like the rational choice. And they're doing it by genuinely offering good products that make your team more productive right now. That's what makes it so effective. The trap is comfortable. It's convenient. It saves you time today. The cost is autonomy tomorrow. Most companies will optimize for speed and convenience now and pay the price in strategic freedom later. The ones that survive the AI consolidation wave, the ones that maintain the ability to make independent decisions about their own infrastructure, will be the ones who built their escape route before they ever needed it. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribe to Vertex AI. We cover this stuff daily, the actual mechanics behind the headlines, not just the announcements. In the AI era, the question was never which model is smarter. It was always, who owns the ground you're building on?